Hey guys, I'm Nitij and I'm back with another video which belongs to the jQuery best practices series. And in this video, I am going to talk about these four best practices. Let's start with the first one. The first one is event binding. Now, the usual way to bind any event with any HTML element using jQuery is that first we create the element and then we assign an ID to that element. So there is an anchor link with the label click me. So I'm going to assign the click event of this anchor using jQuery to a function, and normally what we end up doing is we simply write an anonymous function and we provide this function as an argument uh, to the click function, and then inside this function we can do a lot of different kinds of stuff related to our requirements. So we can do something inside this function, and so the point is this approach is not very good because this code is difficult to debug, and it is also difficult to maintain because this function is anonymous. So we would be having a hard time in tracking this function if we have to reuse this entire code for other elements also. So let's suppose that we have a number of different links or a number of different buttons which are doing similar thing but with different arguments. So instead of having anonymous functions for each of them, what we can do is we can simply create a function and assign that function to a variable. So let's call it anchor click equals to, and then I can simply put this function inside it, or we can also, instead of creating a variable, we can directly create a function so that we won't have to worry about the hosting of variables. We can simply declare the function anywhere in the script or in the current scope, and then we can simply provide this named function as an argument, and we can then later use this same function to do different things for different links. So let's say there is the first link, there is a second link, and we are simply using the same link, and we can add some kind of ID to the link to distinguish it from other links, and then we can get the value of this ID attribute inside this function to do something which is specific to this exact link. So to be more precise, so yeah, and in this code we can, we can use the we can use jQuery to get the ID using the $this dot attr, and then we simply have to write the name of the attribute, and that's it. So instead of using anonymous functions to bind events, always try to use named functions because the code is going to be easier to manage. Alright, now let's move on to the second one, which is use promises instead of callbacks. So if you are still not using promises, then please start using them because promises are much better than callbacks and they allow us to write clean code. So consider an example when we have to use $.ajax to I don't know, invoke something or invoke some service, or invoke some kind of get or post request. So what we usually do is uh, we simply assign the success and failure callbacks, or I don't know, maybe I think it's called error, I'm not really sure, but you get the idea because it's been a long time since I've used these properties. So instead of doing this, what you can do is you can simply use the promise object which is returned after calling the $.ajax. So I cannot go into much details about how promises work in this video. I think I will create another video on that, but right now just understand that promises point to and to point to a result which is obtained in the future, and the result could be either resolved, rejected, or uh, it could also be currently going on. So yeah, if any asynchronous call has resulted in success, then the promise is resolved. If it is not successful, then it is rejected, and if it is still going on, then the state could be like running, etc. So yeah, don't use success and error callbacks. Only use the promises, and you can supply a function to this done API, and then this function will get called whenever this service is finished executing. And this is an asynchronous code, so we have to write some kind of code which will be called as soon as the service is finished, and promises are the best way to do that. Alright, so the third one is use objects to set multiple arguments of same types. Now this is very simple. What we normally do is, let's suppose that we have to set a couple of different CSS properties for an element. So let's suppose that we have you know what, let's use this link for now, and first let's cache it. So we have got the reference of the link. Now if we have to set a couple of different CSS attributes in different code places or in different areas, so we normally end up with writing code something like this. So let's say we have to, I don't know, we have to set the maybe border with a value of 2px and red and solid, and we might also need to set the, I think, font color, and let's set the font color as blue, and then let's also set the, maybe let's set the width. So width could be set like the value of 20px and so on. So we are setting different CSS properties for this anchor link, which is lnk click me 1. And instead of doing this, what we can do is we can simply call this dot css, and instead of supplying them in different function calls, we can simply provide all of them as properties. I'm not really sure why this width is not getting copied. Okay, so yeah, I need to, and then we have the color, and then we have the width, and that's it. I think this is correct. Oh no, it's not. Alright, so instead of calling this CSS API several number of times, we can simply supply an object with different CSS properties as or different CSS attributes as the properties of this object, which is being passed as an argument. Okay, so now let's come to the last one, which is don't use jQuery when you don't need to. Although I can give you some basic examples of this scenario, the point is that don't use jQuery when you can do the exact same thing using JavaScript. For an example, you want to find the reference of an element using its ID, then don't use jQuery to do that like I have done here. So right now I needed to set CSS. That's because that's why I have to use jQuery to find the reference of this HTML element, and then wrap it inside jQuery object. But if you simply have to set the, for example, if you have to set the inner HTML or the inner text of any element, then there is really no use of using jQuery to do that. It could also be done using JavaScript in a much better way. And other things could be like event binding. If you are sure that you don't need to target some different or old browser versions like Internet Explorer 6 or maybe 7, then you don't have to worry about different APIs being failing for older browsers. You can safely use them in the native JavaScript code. So yeah, the fourth one is don't use jQuery when you don't need to, because it is a performance hit, and your code will do much better if it is simply using JavaScript instead of jQuery to do this to do the similar thing. And so yeah, that was that was about the best practices. And I hope that you will find this video informative, and if you have any question or if you have any suggestion, then please use the comment section. And please do subscribe to this channel if you want to keep hearing about the new videos that I'm going to post in the future. So thank you for hearing me out. Have a nice day.